Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Hans-Peter Kaufmann. He retired from Suissetec as CEO. He was born in Schaffhausen in Switzerland in 1954, so he's not even as old as me. I met him earlier. He's a really nice guy. After completing his Swiss schooling and training as a teacher, he spent much of the 1980s developing the Canton Schaffhausen's tourism organisation, and then he got into a career in the aviation industry with Swissair as Vice President International Affairs Europe and North Africa, and executive of Europort Basel-Mulhouse-Freiburg, and as COO of the KLM Alps airline, after which he joined the Group Executive Management of Winterthur Insurance, which is now part of AXA. He was appointed CEO of Suissetec, the 3,500 member strong umbrella association of the technical building contractors in Switzerland and Liechtenstein in 2006. He retired in June last year, but he's taken up several consulting positions, and we're pleased to have him here today. Those consulting work is in trade, industry and travel. He's going to talk to us today on Swiss training models and how we attract instructors. Welcome, Hans-Peter.
Yes, good morning. I have a small technical problem, but this is going to be solved quickly. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our hosts to their fantastic new training center. You make us envious. And of course, being there, I did some spy work. I went on the car park to discover there's one thing missing: the charging station for the electric cars. But it'll come, I'm told. It'll come, I'm told. And the other thing, of course, I looked at the number plates. And what did I see on the number plates? Victoria, the state to be. Well, yes, we are here. And the other one I saw, almost as big in numbers, Victoria, the education state. And I think that fits in perfectly well. That's actually why I am here. Because I'm here to talk about skills training and how to attract instructors to our trade. The original title of my presentation has been published as a comparison between Swiss and German training models. But when I was preparing this talk, I realized that the two countries are more or less the same. And my German colleagues, which I consulted, agreed. That makes things much easier for you and me. I can just tell you about the Swiss approach, and you will know that this applies to both Switzerland and Germany. There's only one small variation: the possibility to do a professional baccalaureate during the apprenticeship in Switzerland with immediate access to a college of higher education, but I'll come back to that. So the new title of my presentation is Swiss Training Models and How We Attract Instructors. Sounds much simpler, doesn't it? First, however, we need a little context. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of our Swiss education system, and of course, I will also show you what areas Suissetec is involved in. Suissetec is the name of Switzerland and Liechtenstein's Association of Technical Building Contractors, which encompasses plumbing, which is the biggest part, but also heating, ventilation, and even metal roofing. I'm standing in, by the way, for Christoph Scher, our director, who was unable to travel, unfortunately, at the last minute. The Swiss education system is a dual education system. It's dual in that sense that there are two possible ways to achieve your educational aim: the practical, vocational one, or the academic one. This means that young people have to make an important decision right at the start of their working career: apprenticeship or studies. The academic path is well known worldwide and more or less the same everywhere. It's the more theoretical, and university-based one. So I'm going to show you the various options that young people in Switzerland have when they choose the practical vocational path. But to start with, we have to convince young people that professions in the building technology sector offer an interesting and stable career with a wide range of prospects. The short film you saw as an intro was an example how we try to attract potential candidates to our apprenticeships. If you didn't like it, it has to appeal to the bait and not to the fisherman. So in it, young professionals explain and show what they really do in their jobs, and they do so in a way that is familiar to their generation by using methods that are well known in their social media. Once a young person has decided to take the vocational path, they have a wide range of career options and of starting points depending on their level of education. If somebody is more practically than theoretically inclined, the federal certificate is a very good option. This lower level apprenticeship takes 2 years and has a strongly practical focus. This means that these young people earn a basic certificate which gives them a firm foundation that they can build on. A possible next step or a starting point at a higher level is an apprenticeship of 3 or 4 years leading to a federal diploma. And here we have the only small difference with Germany. The federal vocational baccalaureate in Switzerland, giving access to the college, can be done during an apprenticeship and not only afterwards. Those who would like to achieve an even higher level can study at the University of Applied Sciences and earn a bachelor's or master's degree. All these institutions are highly practice-oriented, which makes their graduates very popular with business and industry. Most of these graduates will also have completed their courses while holding a job at the same time, which shows they can cope with heavy workloads and have a certain stress resilience too. Our Swiss education system is dual in another sense too. Anyone taking the practical and vocational path will spend part of their time working within a company and part of it attending vocational courses. An apprentice plumber, for instance, spends 4 days a week doing practical work in the company which has hired him as a usual apprentice, and on the 5th day they undergo theoretical training at school. This leads to one of the key questions of my presentation. How do we provide our vocational trainees with the practical skills and theoretical knowledge they need? On this slide, I guess it looks familiar to you, you can see a young professional working on a real plumbing assignment for their host company. In the first years, of course, they work under skilled supervision, but later on, they become more and more independent. Christoph Scher, the director of Suissetec, who should have been here today, told me that in his 3rd year as an apprentice electrician, his company provided him with a company car and sent him off to deal with customers without supervision. As he was just 19 years old, this made him feel at least 2 feet taller. And it also helped him to become more and more experienced, independent, and professional. Needless to say, acquiring the theoretical knowledge is an important part of the vocational education process too. This is taught through classic schooling, which is supported and extended with various exercises and practical tasks. So far, I have spoken about 2 aspects of education, the manual side and the intellectual side. But if we go back to the basics of education, according to 18th century Swiss educational and social reformer John Henry Pestalozzi, whose ideas, by the way, were promoted in Britain by his student John Mayo, all embracing education is based on the 3 H's: hands, head, and heart, taking in the manual, the intellectual, and the emotional sides, as important as the 2 others. As you may know, Switzerland consists of 26 cantons, which are comparable to the states and territories here in Australia, just a little bit smaller, of course. In fact, the whole of Switzerland is about the size of a Queensland farm. But these 26 cantons, of course, they are more or less independent, and this can cause problems. We've heard it yesterday. It gives us, for example, 26 sets of building standards. Not only the few you have with your few states, we have 26 standards, and 26 sets of fire protection laws, as if fire had different rules about how it should burn in different states. Our federal diplomas are also, in principle, a state affair. But to make sure that everyone gets the same education here, Suissetec develops the teaching aids for its various professions and makes them available nationwide in 3 languages, German, French, and Italian, to guarantee a universal quality over the whole country. The only way to acquire ability, of course, is by doing things yourself. It's like in sports. You have to train hard if you want to make a grade. To ensure that our young professionals acquire the necessary working skills, they attend about 60 days of intensive courses during their 3 or 4-year apprenticeship, in addition to their vocational school. This slide shows one of our workshops where these intensive courses take place. And you are familiar with this picture. Also, the wall in the background simulates the building site, while the workbenches in the front are the workshop. With just a few steps between the two, our trainees learn to plan in the workshop before going to the construction site, here, the wall. This is very important because it's a waste of valuable time having to drive back and forth between the workshop and the building site just because something has been forgotten. And as we all know, time is money. This brings me to my first infallible tip for today. Our training method is competence-based. Our trainees learn to perform concrete actions, and this gives them the ability to perform these independently when their training is completed. So our efforts are focused not on techniques, on materials, on a particular working method, but on performing a particular action. But of course, the technique, the materials, and the working methods are all constant companions in being able to perform the action. This approach, we feel, is much closer to the practical working world. Just because you can cut and weld a pipe doesn't mean that you can install an entire bathroom. But if you can install a bathroom, you must be able to cut and weld. After the planning phase, our trainees start working on the building site. So in their intensive courses, our trainees have to carry out a complete installation on a small scale. And this, as you already know, is how they acquire their competence-based knowledge. If you want to become an excellent professional, it's also very important to be precise. As you've just seen from WorldSkills in Kazan, there, for example, a tolerance of only 1 millimeter is accepted. And that can split you from a diploma and a medal. And 1 millimeter, as we know, is not really a knot. In this photo, you can see how the techniques are an integral part of our competence-based education. Without a knowledge of welding, the trainee just would not be able to do the job. Good instructors have only one goal: to teach their students how to manage without them. That's why we use mock-ups to coach our young professionals. Here you can see a class working on a model of a roof. They are discussing the installation of solar collectors or photovoltaic panels and how to put the wires through the roof sections. It's all about practical applications and giving people the ability to see the big picture. But, and this is the second theme of my presentation, how do we attract the good instructors we need? Job advertisements? No chance. First of all, we are interested in professionals who are still in working life. We must be sure that they are capable themselves of doing what they are teaching their trainees. For recruitment to be successful, here is my second insider tip today. If you want to attract someone, you have to be attractive. And an attractive image leads to the best situation you can imagine. Word of mouth advertising. And that's how we find most of our instructors. In our further education courses, at the College of Higher Education, for instance, the instructors can often see pretty quickly which of the participants are talented at passing on knowledge to others. So we often recruit new instructors by approaching these people directly. We find that these two ways, word of mouth and direct approach, are the best means of getting the kind of instructors we need. Because in both cases, we are sure that the person concerned brings all the professional and didactic know-how needed to provide the quality vocational education that is always our objective. Sometimes we also meet interesting people at our industry conferences and seminars. These conferences bring often together up to 650 plumbers, specialists in their fields. And we may well come across speakers from our member companies who show a particular didactic talent in their presentation or other interactions. The same thing can sometimes happen when they are networking at these events during the intervals. And of course, whenever we can, we try to recruit these people to join our instructor teams. To give you an idea of the kind of background these people tend to have, here are two CVs of two of our current instructors. Needless to say, both Sandra and Sebastiano completed a vocational apprenticeship and have steadily continued their further training and education. Sebastiano has already been a qualified instructor with a Swiss federal diploma as a teacher of higher education. Most of our applicants don't have this qualification, but Suissetec gives them the appropriate didactic training and all the further tools they need to become good and successful instructors. This is the third and last insider tip I'm going to give you today. You have to sow before you can reap. Suissetec invests about 10,000 Australian dollars in training each future instructor. That's the cash out. We meet the costs of their didactic training and we employ them for the time this training requires. That's another $40,000. So it's not cheap, but the $50,000 for each instructor are very well invested. Because this investment is really valuable in the quality of our basic and further education and training. And I think that's a key reason why Switzerland has one of the world's most successful vocational education systems. This also means decent salaries for our professionals in the field. Suissetec has excellent relations with our social partners, the unions. We have a negotiated collective universally applicable agreement for the period 2019 to 2022. Universally applicable in this means that every company in the country, in our trades, be they members or non-members, or a foreign company sending workers to Switzerland is bound to the minimum conditions in this agreement. But maybe now let's speak plain language. I know you Australians like plain language. And in Switzerland, plain language means money. What do we have as salaries for plumbers? Well, in the first year after the apprenticeship, a plumber in Switzerland has a minimum yearly salary of 79,950 Australian dollars. Now, the peoples from the unions will now be shocked. Nobody pays this salary because that's the minimum wage. Everybody pays a market salary which is 20 to 30% higher. The minimum salary after 7 years after the concluded apprenticeship is for a plumber is 99,450 Australian dollars. Again, market salaries are between 20 and 30% above this amount. Well, but we shouldn't forget, in the end, the most important thing in whatever we do is the people themselves and their passion for what they do. Thank you very much.